Hi, this is Don. Welcome to part 4 of Growing Your Marriage. So today we're going to emphasize conflict management, managing conflict, okay? So just a little bit of review. Remember, if the first 3 levels of the sound relationship house are working, you're building love maps, you're learning how to show fondness and admiration, and you're always turning towards your relationship, you're becoming better friends is what you're doing, becoming better friends. When those 3 levels are working, then you'll find that level 4 is automatically in the positive perspective. And when level 4 is in the positive perspective, then you can manage conflict. Then you can build dreams together. Then you can share meaning in your life together. So we're going to move into managing conflict, and hopefully you can get to that place where you're in a positive perspective. Some of you may have to finish your 7-week course in fondness and admiration and retraining your brain to see your partner differently before you're ready to manage conflict because you're being triggered a lot. But let's get into it anyway. So first of all, we sort of talked about this last week, but the whole idea that we want to hit up today is this: let your partner influence you. Okay? Let your partner influence you. There is a little saying, happy wife, happy life. Well, that seems to rhyme, but I'll tell you this much: happy husband, happy life as well. Even though it doesn't rhyme, it still works that way. So I'd heard this story one time about a couple who had been married for 50 years, and they asked him, well, what do you think worked? What helped this marriage last for 50 years? And he said, oh, that's easy. We decided right from the beginning that I would handle all the big problems and she would just take care of all the little problems. And in 50 years, we never had one big problem. Well, it doesn't work that way, right? It doesn't work that way. There needs to be like a sharing of all of this. There's something about being connected and being able to feel like your partner and you are a team working together in this whole process of marriage. So we need an open attitude. Open attitudes are really important. And last time we talked about the filter. Remember how the filter works? And once you get into that negative perspective of your partner, your filter lets in all the negative things and it just screens out all the good stuff with your partner and you don't really see it. So moving into that positive perspective and resetting that filter so you don't just filter out all the bad or all the good either, because we're a mixture of bad and good. Nobody's all bad and nobody's all good, but we can feel that way sometimes. Having an open attitude so you can share decision making. All right. So what we want to talk about today is something really important, and that has to do with knowing that there are 2 kinds of marital conflict. 2 kinds. There's the kind that we can solve, and then there's the ones that we can't solve. I think I mentioned this on the very first day, that I would talk about it later on, that the research shows that on average, 69% of marital issues are not solvable. Now, that's average, so some people actually have more than that, as well as less than that, of course. And it would probably depend on your compatibility. And that simply means the more things that you line up on all the way down, like hobbies, spiritual beliefs, raising children, finances, the more things that you actually line up on, of course, you're going to have more solvable problems and less unsolvable. But we did talk about codependent relationships a couple weeks ago, and codependent relationships, it seems like we have this tendency to attract the opposite person into our life. Kind of like that person completes me. And when opposites attract, then you kind of have only very little things in common, okay? And that's rough, but that's why we get such a high average of 69%. So think of it this way. If you were married to somebody different, the 69% of the problems would just be a different list. That's all. You just take, wherever you go, there you are, okay? So I'm just gonna read this little illustration. I think it's kind of cute. Paul married Alice, and Alice gets loud at parties, and Paul, who is shy, hates that. But if Paul had married Susan, he and Susan would have gotten into a fight before they even gotten to the party. That's because Paul is always late, and Susan hates to be kept waiting. She would feel taken for granted, which she is very sensitive about. Paul would see her complaining about this as her attempt to dominate him, which he is very sensitive about. If Paul married Gail, they wouldn't have even gone to the party because they would still be upset about an argument they had the day before about Paul not helping with the housework. To Gail, when Paul does not help, she feels abandoned, which she is sensitive about. And to Paul, Gail's complaining is an attempt of domination, which he is sensitive about. The same is true about Alice. If she had married Steve, she would have the opposite problem because Steve gets drunk at parties, and she would be so angry at his drinking that they would have gotten into a fight about it. If she had married Lou, she and Lou would have enjoyed the party, but when they got home, trouble would begin when Lou wanted sex because he always wants sex when he wants to feel closer. But sex is something Alice only wants when she already feels close. Now, I'm sure most of us can identify with at least one aspect of that, but you get the point. If you just have a different partner, you just have a different set of unsolvable problems. So, before we get into how to handle unsolvable problems, why don't we do the easy thing and talk about how to solve solvable problems, okay? So, here's what we find. We find that, and we talked about this last time, that when you're in a conflict, if your heart rate goes above 95 beats a minute, you aren't able to do anything. You can't hear everything, you can't see everything, and you are being irrational. You're doing emotional reasoning, and you're not irrational. It doesn't work. So we have to be careful of being flooded, and then do the timeout if we got flooded, and take some time out, come back, start over again. We'll talk about how to start over again, but we're not going to go there right now. We're just going to go to this idea of conflict. Let's just talk about this idea of conflict, okay? Now, I know it's hard to figure this out, but conflict is actually good. I mean, most of us don't want conflict. Face it, we avoid conflict. This is why you get people pleasers. Yes, dear, whatever you say, dear, because we don't want to have conflict. And then we get all tense inside and angry and bitter on the inside. We're putting everything under the rug and the pile's getting bigger because we just don't want to have conflict. But if we can switch in our minds that conflict isn't a bad thing, okay? It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a necessary thing. Imagine a world without conflict. You say, well, that'd be heaven. Well, not necessarily. Because let's take an easy one. Let's take the government. No conflict in the government, okay? Like, I lived in Tanzania, and I remember one time we were walking around the campus when I first got there, and one of the teachers was telling all about what the campus wasn't about, and somehow we got into this politics, and he said, oh yeah, and we're having an election next week. And he says, yes, and you know, we don't have that same problem you do in America, where you fight over who's going to win and who's not going to win. We only have one party, one person running. It's just yes or no. So it's pretty easy. No conflict here. Okay, communism, dictatorship sort of thing. Anyway, let's just say in our government, there was no conflict. So someone would say, I move that we double the taxes next year. No conflict? Okay, double the taxes. Oh, no conflict in the church? I move that we yada, yada, yada. Okay, well, I'll do it. You get where I'm going with this? If it wasn't for conflict, we would settle for things that are, if not wrong, we would settle for mediocre. Conflict helps us to take ideas and bounce them back and forth and analyze them and put them out there and discuss them and get out of the box. And in the end, we find the best idea, the best solution, the best way to operate. Not mediocre, but quality. And that won't happen without conflict. So if you start to reframe conflict in your mind, it goes a long ways. But you have to start there. So let's think about it this way now. Let's say that this represents a problem. Okay, this is a problem. Now, generally, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to illustrate this like here's me and here's you on the other side of the screen looking at me. So I'm talking to you, you're talking to me, and I could say, we have a problem. You and I have a problem. What does that feel like? Feels like we're, right? Butting heads. We have a problem. No, it's not that way, really. We have to, don't make the problem, we have a problem. Externalize this problem. Externalize it. Now, I'm going to turn sideways. And if you were to turn sideways too, we'd be shoulder to shoulder. And we could say, we have a problem. Like we're on a team, and here's the problem. We have a problem. Makes a big difference, doesn't it? So it's like if the Canucks were going to play the Oilers, they wouldn't think of it like this way. We have a problem and then sit there and fight with each other. No, they would be a team. And as a team, they would see the Oilers over there and they would say, we have a problem. And now what are we going to do to solve the problem? How are we going to win this game as a team? They're going to work together. I'll pass to you, you pass it to him. We're going to work together. We're going to have all these plays where we pass to each other and we put that puck in the goal as a team. Okay? If they started to compete within themselves, everybody would try to keep the puck to themselves, they would not win any problems. They would not win any games. They have to work as a team. So two people in relationship, in a marriage relationship, are a team. And the problem, don't make the problem you. Make the problem the problem. Keep the problem external to your team, to your relationship. Look at it objectively. We have a problem. How are we going to solve this problem? How are we together going to solve the problem? You get it? Now, I'm going to walk you through something that I would do in a live workshop, but you can do this at home. And I'm going to create some time for you to do this. I want the two of you to take some chairs, or if you're on a couch, just move your body so you're facing face to face the best you can. I want you to get close enough so you can actually take a arm wrestling position with one elbow on either on a table if you're across from a table with each other, or use your knee. Usually you use your knee, and you're going to take an arm wrestling position, okay? And you're going to be looking at each other like you're okay, pretty much ready to go here. Okay, let's try this now. I hope you're ready. Choose who's going to be A and who's going to be B. Make, one of you's A, one of you's B. You got it? Okay, so now follow my directions. I want person A, to bring person B's hand down like you're winning this arm wrestling contest, and B, cooperate the best you can. A, bring B's hand down and say, I'm right. Okay. All right, now B, bring A's hand over to your side and say, I'm right. Now A, bring B's hand back over to your side and say, I'm right. Keep doing that for a bit. Keep going. Okay, you can stop. Now just keep your positions because we're going to go back to this, okay? But just, what does that feel like? What does that feel like? Did you feel some tension? Was there somebody pushing back on your hand? And did it feel like a competition where one of you is going to win and one of you is going to lose? Playing I'm right is not the way to argue. Playing I'm right creates a competition, and somebody will win and somebody will lose in the end. That is not teamwork, okay? I heard this phrase once. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Okay? So playing I'm right never works. Competitive. Win-lose situation. Okay, take the arm wrestling pose again. Okay, get yourself comfortable here. Same A, same B. Follow my directions. A, ready? Take B's hand down, and B, cooperate, like I said before, just cooperate. Take B's hand down and say, I'm right. And just stay there. Look each other in the eyes and wait. Now B, what I want you to do is say, I acknowledge your position. Okay, now B, take A's hand over to your side, and B, say to A, this is my position. Now A, say to B, I acknowledge your position. Okay, now you can let go and you can turn your chairs back wherever it's comfortable. What was different? Did it feel like a competition, or did it feel something like I was understood, I was listened to, I was acknowledged, I was heard, I was validated? Not a competition. I acknowledge your position, and I acknowledge your position. So let me illustrate it this way. Again, I'm here, you're in front of me. So let's say that we have a problem, okay? Now, y'all know what this is, okay? But this time I'm going to do it like this. All right. Now, if you were to describe to me what you see, you would say, I see a box that's green has some kind of flowery, leafy things on it. And there's a hole, and there's a white light paper sticking out of the hole. But I would say, sorry, that's my position, looking in a mirror here. That's what I would say to you, right? I see a hole in a box and a white paper sticking out. But you would say, I see a couple of little, looks like dogs, puppies, and the word royal with a white frame around it and a red label with writing, etc. You know what I'm saying? So what I see is different than what you see. Who's right? We're both right. We are both right. And if somebody were over here looking at, they would see something completely different than what you would see and what I would see. And we would have three people who are right. If someone were looking down from the top, they would even see it differently. Who's right? That person, that person, that person, or that person? We're all right. We are all right. But what I'd rather say it like this: we all have a valid perspective. Each one of us, you and I, have two different but valid perspectives. So I can acknowledge your position. I can acknowledge your perspective. Even if I don't agree with it, it's still a valid perspective. And you can acknowledge my perspective even if you don't agree with it, because it's still a valid perspective. See, if this tissue box represents a problem, like how to discipline the children, or how to budget our finances, I will see that problem differently than you will see that problem. I have grown up in a home, in a church, gone to schools, had different friends, watched different movies, read different books. I will have a different perspective on finances than you would, considering your home, your church, your schools, your friends, your books, your life. And they're both valid. You've heard the story of the elephant, right? The blind man and the elephant. Somebody touches the elephant's side and says, an elephant is like a wall. Somebody grabs a tail and says, an elephant is like a rope. Somebody grabs the trunk and says, an elephant is like a fireman's hose. Somebody grabs the ear and says, an elephant is like a big fan. Who's right? Somebody grabs a leg and says, it's like a tree trunk. Who's right? They're all valid perspectives. Now, if you want to really know what an elephant looks like, you got to listen to each other. Those blind men have to share their perspective with each other. And by putting all the perspectives on the table, they would all have a better idea of what an elephant actually looks like. So as a couple, you got to put your perspectives out there. And when you combine both valid perspectives, you'll have a much better idea of what this problem looks like and how it can be solved. Because when you solve a problem, you got to think outside the box sometimes. And if you don't, when you're out of the box, you don't really, you know what I mean? You may not even know what's out of the box. But when you hear your partner, you'll say, well, you're out of the box. Well, they're just looking at the box from a different angle. So you put your perspectives together. And once you have that fuller perspective, both perspectives out there, and you understand each other's perspective, and now you're looking at the two perspectives together, you can now brainstorm ideas to solve the problem, and a solution has to be a win-win. We both win because we're a team, and the problem is outside of us, and as a team we want to find the solution, the win-win solution. As you can see, it's not going to be as easy as it sounds. The reason it's not going to be easy is because we're going to have to do this discussion differently than we've probably ever done before in our lives. Okay? By the way, the name of this method is called the Rappaport method, and John Gottman got it from a man by the name of Mr. Rappaport, and he created this for the United Nations. This is the method they use in the United Nations, and you know that it's not easy there because you've got every country in the world having a different perspective, and you've got to figure out a win-win for everybody. Wow. But it's just two of you. It's a lot easier to have a win-win when there's only two of you than when there's 200 of you. Okay? So, a win-win. Each one of you gets what you want. All right. First of all, you need to understand something. This is going to take time. And I don't mean days, I mean many minutes, perhaps, many minutes of time. So what usually happens is somebody blurts out something. They'll say, I want to buy a boat. And immediately the other person puts their 2 cents in and says, we can't afford a boat. We got bills to pay. And kaboom. And now it becomes no boat, no boat, boat, no boat, boat, no boat. I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, no, I'm right. You're wrong and I'm right. You follow me? You get nowhere. We have to stop playing I'm right and listen before talking. Now, how do you listen? I heard you. You want to buy a boat. Are you listening to me? We can't afford it. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about listening, really listening, and validating the person's perspective. Putting it back to them so that they feel that you really heard what they want, and it's more than just about the boat. There's more to it than a boat. There's more to it than no boat, okay? So we got to hear all that. So what you have to do is have this conversation. I've got an outline, given you an outline that is attached to the email with the Rappaport method. But for now, just follow me. It doesn't matter who goes first. Flip a coin if you have to. One of you goes first and describes your position, while the other one listens. Actively listens. I'm going to say that again. The other person listens actively, not defensively, not counter-attackingly. Actively listens to acknowledge your perspective. That's the goal here. Be curious so you can acknowledge and validate it. Be curious, okay? So one person is describing their position. So it's more than just, we want to buy a boat. We need to buy a boat. They would go into a little bit of like, what does it cost? And why are you thinking this way? And tell the person why you think the boat will be great and what will be the great outcomes of having a boat, and all of the stuff that you would probably normally get into where you go, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right. Except you get the time to put it all out there in one big speech, so to speak. But don't make it a sermon and don't go on and on and on and on. Keep it short, please. If you don't keep this short, it's not going to work. Get down and just stay pointed. Laser, I call it laser. Now, active listening on the other part is this. It's like looking at you in the eyes and going, I see. Aha. Really? Oh, okay. Wait. Can you say that again? I kind of missed that. Oh, okay. I think I know what you're saying. Let me see now. And this is what you do as you get to the end. As the person winds up, you say, I think I have an idea. Is this what you're saying? You're really feeling bored and you're really feeling like this family needs something and this boat is 50% off and it's really a good deal. It's a good investment. And this will have we'll have a lot of quality time with the kids and with each other if we buy this boat. Now the other person might go, yeah, that's it. Or they might go, no, you didn't quite get what I was saying. And so then you try again in the part that they were not quite understanding. You see? And then the person says, okay, I get it. I think I got it now. You're saying this and this and that, and you're feeling this way. And then you might go, yeah, that's it. You got it. Now, this part where you have to repeat back, don't try to be creative and go off in some space and try to put your own stuff into this thing. No, you've got to say only and stick to only what your partner just said. Use your partner's words as much as you can, or you're going to be like way off base, okay? If you just go into interpretation and you start reading into this stuff, what you think you'd like them to say or you don't want them to say, it's going to create problems. You just try to put it back to that person exactly as they said it. But you might have to ask some questions. You might have to say, can you say that again? I don't know if I remember exactly everything. Could you just repeat that? Okay. And you might say something like, can you tell me what you mean by that word disgusting? Like you said it's disgusting. Can you tell me what that means to you? And the person might go, well, it means I'm disappointed. And you go, oh my goodness, I'm glad I asked, because disgusting means dog poop. You see, we have different definitions sometimes. And our definition comes from our past, our background, what we have, how we've related to that word disgusting. And that other person understands the same word differently from their experience. So we have to clarify some definitions. So we want to try to use our own words, but we want to make sure we understand what they mean by those words. Okay? Clarify some of those words if you feel you're not really getting it. This is taking time. It's just discussing. You're not arguing. See, how can you argue here? You're not arguing. You're not trying to prepare your own argument yet. You're not there yet. You're putting all your focus on your partner, and you're trying to really understand your partner. Look the part. That's what active listening is. You're looking into their eyes. You're saying, tell me more. Can you explain that again? You're really being curious. You present yourself like you want to know what your partner perspective is. And that just having that interest, that curiosity, that active listening validates their perspective. Just doing that validates it. And then you have to be able to say it back. Now, I heard that there's this famous worldwide debate club. And what I'm told is that these are professional debaters. Before you go into a debate with someone, it's vital that you completely understand the enemy's perspective. So you study everything that they've ever said on the subject, and you really thoroughly immerse yourself in what your enemy, opposite debate person, what their perspective is. Because only then can you actually come in with a valid attack and win the debate. Okay? Now, it's not about winning here. That's what I said, though. In the debate, it probably is. But in a relationship, again, you want to be right or do you want to be happy? So it's all about being the same team and a win-win. Okay? So once this person can give it back to this person and this person can say yes, be honest and say, yes, you understand. I really believe you understand what I said and how I'm feeling too. Then you say, now what's your perspective? Once this person feels validated, then they have to turn the tide here. What's your perspective? And now you become the listener and you be curious and you repeat this whole thing. Okay? You repeat this whole thing all over again. Now, I'm going to refer to the sheet here I sent you. And I want you to notice that there is a big circle and a little circle, so it creates like something like a donut, right? So the big circle represents your full perspective, everything you've said on the topic, all the information that you have, your perspective. And your partner has a big circle too, and that's your partner's perspective. And I you might have seen this in school. You probably did it in math class. I'll just do a quick one here. Right? Two perspectives. In the middle here is what you agree on. There's some things you probably agree on, okay? And if you want to have a win-win, you've got to have something that you can both agree on, all right? So in this diagram, that little circle, it sort of represents what you can agree on, okay? It really does, because, but what we really mean by that little circle is, of all the stuff that you put out there, say regarding the boat, the little circle represents your bottom line. That is, what is it that you're really wanting? Is it a boat? When you boil it all down to it, it's probably, and you change this more into a value. A value. What value are you wanting to live by? And the value is probably family fun. I value the family having fun together. That's really what the boat's about. Stop and think about it. Having family fun. And the other person's perspective, which is, we can't afford a boat, okay, is financial security. Not going into debt that you can't handle. Not going into debt that if there was an emergency, the refrigerator broke down, that you couldn't deal with it financially. So one person is looking for financial security and the other person is looking for family fun. Then you forget all that other stuff that was said. That's where you're flexible on. You see, you're flexible on the other stuff. And you try to come up with a win-win. In other words, an idea that both of you get your bottom line, your values are met, both of you. So we talked the last time about, one of the last times, about freedom, right? You can't force or manipulate a partner into anything. There has to be freedom in a relationship, or you kill love and you create only fear. But in this situation, we want to be able to meet both needs, because you can't force a partner to change their value. If your partner has a value of honesty, you can't pressure that partner into cheating on income tax. If a person has a value of whatever, you can't pressure a person to go against their values. All the rest is flexible. Color of the rug could be flexible, perhaps. It's not necessarily a value. Maybe I'm wrong there, but you know what I'm saying. You might have a value of no rugs because of, you know, asthma, having asthma and allergies. So that could be boiled down to a value of being healthy. So it's no rug versus rug, and the other person has the value of comfort, okay? So you might have to come up with something besides carpet or hardwood where you get comfort, or you might have to put a small throw rug someplace or something, whatever. Let's go back to the boat and talk about that. Family fun, it's not the boat. Financial security, it's not the boat. It's financial security. Kayaks, that's just one possible solution. What you do is once you got your perspectives put out there and listened to and acknowledged and validated, each of you write down or say your bottom line. It's all about family fun. I want family fun. It's all about, I want financial security. Then you take a blank piece of paper and you start to put down ideas. One of you throws in an idea, the other one throws in an idea. You don't judge them, you don't critique them, you just throw in as many ideas as you can. This is called brainstorming. Funny ones, throw a few, you gotta laugh a little bit. So throw something in there, you know, like we could always sell a house and join the circus or something, you know, I'd be cheap living, whatever. You throw a bunch of funny stuff in there, not sarcastic, not to dig at your partner, just put some humor in here, because Gottman finds that people who can laugh while they're arguing or having a discussion are the most happy in their marriages. Laugh in a conflict? Yes. Yes, that's what we're shooting for here. It's not about we have a problem. It's about we have a problem. What are we going to do about this? Let's solve this problem together. We're a team. Win-win. Let's go on for a win-win, okay? So you're excited about this. We're going to win. So you put out your ideas. Then after you got as many ideas out as you can, you start at the top, and you just basically have a, you know, kind of a discussion vote. So it's kind of like idea number one. Okay, neither one of us likes it. You just put it out there for an idea, right? Okay, ready, go, number two. Oops, one person likes it, one person doesn't. That's not a win-win, okay? Ready, discuss a little bit. Number three, oh, there's a win-win. Number three, we both like. But you know, you might have more than one win-win idea on this page, so you keep going. And you circle the ones that are win-wins, and then you pick the one that you both like the best, and you go for it. Kayaks. One person gets what they want, family fun. The other person gets what they want, financial security. No debt into $16,000 loans or anything like that, okay? Of course, kayaks themselves have a little problem. You got to pack them around. You might need a little trailer or a truck. Maybe you already have a truck, whatever. I don't know. But it's far cheaper. You get the point? That's how you deal with a solvable problem. A solvable problem. Now, there is another kind of problem, and that is an unsolvable problem. So let's go with this. First question, how do you know if it's a solvable problem or an unsolvable problem? How do you know? There's only one way. You try to solve it and you don't. Now, you might be able to try to solve it another day and you still can't. Another week later, you still can't. When you have discovered by experience that you have never been able to bring up a win-win, you can't solve it, that is how you tell if it's an unsolvable problem. So I've given you a 2-page document of examples of unsolvable problems, or we call them gridlock perpetual issues, okay? And these are just very common ones that have been in relationships. There's 23 different ones here. And there might be others, obviously. That's 24 says, there might be others. I'm going to assume you've been married a while. Some of you may be single. Some of you may be just dating somebody right now. So you may not know what your unsolvable problems are yet. That's just how you have to go through experiences to find out. But let's say you've been married for a while now. You know what they are. And here's how you do it. You just start at the top and you read the first one. Differences in neatness and organization. And you have just a short discussion. And it works something like this. One person says, I've never been happy with any solutions we've come up with. We've been arguing about this forever, and I'm just never happy. The other person says, well, I'm really happy with it. It's no big deal. If one thinks it's unsolvable, it's unsolvable. Okay? If two thinks it's unsolvable, it's also unsolvable. But if one of you feels has been no satisfactional solution, it's unsolvable. That's how you decide whether it's solvable or not. If one of you thinks it is unsolvable, it's unsolvable. Okay? And in other words, let me take this one on neatness, because this is a really good one to illustrate. One of you is organized and neat and OCD almost, right? Everything's got to be in its place and clean, and no crumbs on the table, all the dishes put in the cupboard, nothing in the sink, it's got to be, the house has to be organized. The other person, clothes around on the floor, books left out, magazine open on the coffee table, dishes in the sink. The stove is messy, hasn't been cleaned yet. Laundry's overflowing in the laundry room. Okay, you get the picture, okay? So how do you solve that problem? How do you solve that problem? This is chances are this is an unsolvable problem, because one person's personality is very OCD. It's got to be just perfect. And the other person, who cares? So think of it this way. All right? Think of it this way. Maybe the person who has OCD and this is typical, the person with OCD, that's the person that has the problem with the mess. The person who's messy or has no issue with this, they don't have a problem with a mess. In fact, the person who can live with a mess, they really don't care if it's clean. It's either, to them, it doesn't matter. So you might be keeping the house perfectly clean and this person goes, that's cool, doesn't bother me. Or it might be just totally dirty and that person who's messy goes, oh, that's cool, doesn't bother me. See what I mean? It may be only one person that believes it's an unsolvable problem because the other person's cool with it either way. They don't matter. A messy person usually doesn't care if it's clean or messy. That doesn't bother them. But an OCD person, it bothers them when there's crumbs there, books over there, magazines open over there. They get, it's all about anxiety, okay? So that becomes an unsolvable problem. It really does. Now, what do you do with it? If you keep on trying to solve it, you're going to lock horns. That's called the gridlock. You get gridlocked and you can't solve it. You're just gridlocked. And the longer you keep trying to solve an unsolvable problem, the more the gridlock gets. And now you start becoming like the other person's the bad person, the enemy. And then this is a negative perspective, and you start looking down on the person for every little thing, and it's just the enemy. They don't want to listen, they won't listen, they won't, and you get into all this negative perspective. So the answer, how do you deal with an unsolvable problem? It's very simple. You give up. You give up fighting about it. You just don't. You stop trying to solve the unsolvable problems. Don't even bring them up to try to solve them, because you've done that already. You agree to disagree. And you do that verbally. You don't just do that up here. You say this, you look at each other in the eye and say, this is an unsolvable problem. Let's agree to disagree. And you go, well, it's easy to say that, Don, but how do you actually live like that? Well, imagine you have a tennis elbow. Okay, somehow you've damaged the elbow, and it's very painful to use your right arm. You've been to physiotherapy, you've tried all kinds of stuff. What do? It's unsolvable, isn't it? It's an unsolvable problem. You've tried to solve it, but it's unsolvable. What do? You live with it. You adapt. You do things differently than you would prefer to do, but you can do it. You use your left arm more than your right arm. You put more weight on your left arm than your right arm. You ask for help if you can't do it. You do it differently than you prefer, but you have to give up trying to use the right arm. It's just going to get worse. You got to stop fighting about this because it's just going to make it worse. You give up. Stop fighting about it and figure out a way to live with the problem. Like a tennis elbow, you adapt. Another way to explain it. Let's say that you want to walk from point A to point B. Here's point A and here's point B. And you want to travel from point A to point B. So when you get from A to B, you've arrived. In other words, this represents you've solved it. You got from A to B. When you dance, it's not a walk from A to B. There's no starting point. There's no ending point when you dance. You just dance. It's just about being in that relationship. There's no end point. There's no place you have to start at and end up and say, we've danced, except when the song finishes, but then you can just keep going. In other words, a dance isn't about getting anywhere. It's about just being with this person, just being in the moment and doing things with this person in the moment without an agenda, without any particular thing that you have to get done. It's just being in that relationship, just being. So let's go and take the cleanliness thing. One person doesn't care. Messy, clean, no difference. One person cares. Okay. The person who cares, you have to let go of trying to fix this. You have to let go of trying to change your partner. You have to let go of trying to force, manipulate, or win this argument where it's not going to be a win-win. You just basically have to make a decision. And you make this decision like every day, several times a day even. You walk into a room, you see a mess. You feel anxiety. You make a decision. But here's the decision. Clean it up, feel better, or sit with your anxiety and don't clean it up. Just do your best to ignore it and do what you want to do. Put your mind on what you have to get done. Now, if you choose to clean it up, it's your decision. Make it your decision to clean it up. Don't be bitter about it. Don't be mumbling about why your partner doesn't ever help around here. You've already decided that's an unsolvable problem. You're not going to get anywhere by trying to get your partner to change. So you've given that up and you just simply clean it up. Now, the person who's messy might have some kind of guilt complex about all this. Like now they see their partner cleaning things up all the time and they start feeling like, you must think I'm not a very good housewife, or you must think I'm not very good, whatever, right? I think you're probably looking down on me. And this person might have to reassure this person. No, 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 no. Remember, it's not about you. This is about me. I want it clean. I am making the decision. Don't even go there. And don't go there. Don't be cleaning the house resenting your partner for this. No, you either choose to clean it or you choose to leave it messy. And if you're trying to fight OCD, leave it messy sometimes. And you will start to, your anxiety will start to go away, because once you begin to program your brain to be okay with some messy. If you don't have the time to clean this up, you say to yourself, it's going to be okay. I'm just going to leave it there and I'm going to be okay. I'm just going to sit with my anxiety and just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Okay. So that is how you solve an unsolvable problem. You don't solve it. You live with it. And you don't get bitter about it. And you can joke about it a little bit. Like you say, you're the one picking up all the little crumbs and stuff. And you can say, that's just me and my OCD. Ha 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 ha. Laugh at yourself. Don't worry about it. It's just, I just have this OCD thing. I have to get this, it's done, and then go your way. Now I'm going to confess here. I'm the OCD. My wife's the not OCD. Okay. So I do a lot of cleaning, but I've learned that's what I like to do. I will do it. And if I don't want to do it, I won't do it. It took me a while to be okay with the mess, but it worked. And she went through all of that. Oh, you must think I'm a terrible housewife and such and such. And I kept having to tell her, no, I understand that's your personality. I'm not going to change it. But here's the deal. When we started off, we used to be like this. And I would say we're probably more like this now. In other words, the house is not really messy, but it's not really clean either. And we're just going like this. And if one day I really get this kind of like, oh, I got nothing to do and there's a mess here, I go, well, I'll clean it all up and I'll come back to here again for most of the time. But we're never going to be like this. We're never going to solve this problem. She is not going to change her personality, and I'm not going to change my personality. Again, we go back to Gottman, where he said, if you marry somebody different, you would just have a different set of unsolvable problems. So the whole idea of dating and all that stuff is to see who's, what problems you're willing to live with and what problems you're not willing to live with. But most of us are these codependent people who get in these relationships and our filter gets set and we only see everything good about this person until afterwards, then we start to see all the problems with this person. So it's important to be open, but this is water under the bridge, right? When you're dating, that's too late now. So now you just have to live with what you got, and you can do it. You can do it. Whereas before, you could say, no, this person has a few issues that I can't live with. And I hope you have. I'm sure you've done that back in your dating high school years. I was with a girl who, all of a sudden I discovered she had some problems with morality. Sorry. I'm not going to go into details, but I'm just saying, sorry, I have to break up with you. We're just not meant to be together. And you find somebody and you can't trust them. They're dishonest. They say they're doing this, but they're doing that. And you go, honesty and trust, that's important to me. Sorry, we have to break up. You do all that stuff, but you meet someone and they're messy. And you go, well, that's not a moral issue. And you have to do this in your mind. If my partner never changes, I got to be okay with it. I have to be okay with that. okay? I cannot change my partner. I cannot do that. So let's see what we have to do to wrap up things here. I think that's pretty much covers today's topic. So I know I've said a lot here. You might have to repeat this and play it over again. If you really want to know how to have a conversation and how to do it well, and if you still struggle and you still break into fights, that's when you need to seek couples or marriage counseling, okay? So look me up. I have my own private practice, and I take clients. And if you really can't, if a workshop isn't enough, seek myself out, or Brad Bender at Trinity, or someone else that you know, or look them up in the whatever Theravive, or find out who fits you best. Make sure you find a counselor that you can both feel comfortable with. Other than that, I just pray for all of you that you have happy and successful marriages.